We are starting a brand new podcast, and with us is there's none other than Peter Butler, the SAFF winning women's team's head coach. We'll have a lot of things to talk with him, his career in West Ham, his love for cricket, his growing up in Yorkshire, and all those things. Hello, Peter. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Peter, how are you liking? How do you grow? Can you tell us about how did you grow up, and why did you take up football? Because you're coming from Yorkshire, where cricket is very popular.
As sort of we alluded to earlier on, I think when you grow up in Yorkshire, you make a choice. You've got three roads to go down. You go down the rugby road, which is rugby league, because we only play rugby league in Yorkshire, Lancashire, and parts of and Humberside. And then you've got obviously love for cricket. You know, our small little like village cricket grounds, which are like synonymous with like the rolling sort of countryside, dry stone walls, etc., etc. But football is just like, it's so ingrained in us, and when you grow up as a kid and you get handed a Leeds shirt or you get taken to Ellen Road, I think it sort of imprints the team, you know, that you're actually going to support. So for me, it was always Leeds United, or I grew up at Huddersfield Town, but Leeds United and Headingley, obviously famous cricket ground, Northern Cricket Ground, you know, had a lot of transformation, a lot of controversy, unfortunately, recently. Yeah. Which sort of left a little bit of a black mark on Yorkshire cricket, but I just really feel we produced some real wonderful characters and real wonderful people, and it's funny we talk about this because I think the characters in the game are actually cricket, rugby, and football are dying off. You know, we're actually not developing players, you know, in all three codes that, you know, have character, personality, and have the ability to actually think and make decisions for themselves.
Yeah. Can you tell us your journey with West Ham? How was the journey with West Ham? And of course, why did you take up coaching after?
West Ham was a bit of a funny one. It's like Billy Bonds doesn't ring many people, but when he rings you, you never turn him down. And Billy Bonds was the famous player for West Ham. Legend of a guy. I'd actually been playing for Southend under David Webb, who scored the famous goal for Chelsea against Leeds in the 1977 FA Cup final, and in the replay at Old Trafford. And he told me, he said, like, West Ham are watching you. I'd obviously impressed them in a pre-season friendly, to the extent where Harry Redknapp had joined. And it just really sort of catapulted me a little bit into the so-called bigger league. And you know, when you go to West Ham's quite a unique place. It's just a great atmosphere, just working class. It's the working class club of London. The people are brilliant, just down to earth. And it was just a pleasure to actually get the opportunity to go and play at the old bowling ground, which is Upton Park. And they offered me a contract, and I ended up playing about 80 games for them over just short of over a three season sort of tenure.
Then why did you take up coaching? What?
I think coaching. There used to be a coach called Ray Arford who won the Premier League with Kenny Dalglish. He was Kenny Dalglish's assistant, and he said to me one day, he said, "Peter, one day you'll become a coach." And I said, "What makes you think that way?" And he just said, "Because you ask far too many questions." But no, it was just a natural progression. It intrigued me. You know, being like, you know, I am a planner. I like to plan, sort of strategic planning, and it was something which I you got to remember, I played the game when there weren't a great deal of money around. I played for the love of the game, and I loved playing football. The pitches weren't great, the stadiums were older then, and it just gave me a great opportunity for a working class boy from a family who didn't have a great deal of money but had a great deal of love. Where I'm from is a really community-based environment, so we have a real sense of belonging. So I'm from a place called Boothtown in Halifax, and we're really proud of where we're from. Unfortunately, there weren't a cricket ground in Boothtown. We had so many cricket grounds around, but it really to come out of that area, to come out of that sort of like that community, that district, and actually go on and play for West Ham, not only made my parents really proud, but obviously made a lot of people proud, because there's a lot of people a lot of effort had gone into producing a really successful local football team, which was called Boothtown. So, and then I just developed and moved on and ended up at Huddersfield Town, which is a big famous football club. The great Bill Shankly managed there. Just a great environment, wonderful environment, and a huge cricket environment as well.
Yeah, you've been in coaching for quite some time. How do you see the coaching of football coaching evolving with the present time? Not in the whole world, if I would say. How do you see that?
I think the game's changing. I had this conversation this morning actually with a friend of mine who played a lot of games. I think what's happened is the game's changed to the extent where now we've got too many, maybe not too many, but the game's now full of academics.
Yeah.
And statistically, driven apps. Everything's now stat, video analysis. What we're doing now, and I'm sure many coaches will probably be able to relate to this who's watching it, is that we're too quick and too ready to give kids the answers rather than let them work it out themselves. And I'm from the era where it was...
You learn your own self.
There were no Google. There were no pull your phone out and and like tap in, who scored most runs for Yorkshire and blah blah blah. I really strongly believe that the game's changed, and it's not changed for the good. It's changing for the bad in many respects, because now we're actually too readily or too quick to give the answers to kids rather than let them work it out themselves. And we've got far too many academics in the game. So that natural progression from actually being a football coach, and I'm sure this is the same with cricket, I've got no doubt it's the same with cricket, is that what we've got a situation where, sorry, excuse me.
No problem.
We've got a situation where we've got many cricket coaches, football coaches, rugby coaches who have not played the game, however, are experts.
I just have another question about this. Do you think that these days, the coaches, the managing their dressing room or managing the changing room, is the biggest challenge for the coaches these days in every aspect, whether it's football, cricket? As you are saying that the coaching has progressed a lot, it's been statistically a lot, then how much important it is for the coach to manage the egos of the players in every dressing room? I think
managing the egos of the players, that's
something that I work on.
That rings out loud and clear. No, I think there's coaches and managers.
Exactly.
You've got coaches who get into the nuts and bolts and the technical, and the mechanics of the game, which is me. But then also you have to be a psychologist these days. You've got to be a nutritionist, dietitian. You've got to be a little bit of everything. And more importantly, you've got to be a good man manager. And if you can't manage, you're going to fail in this modern day, because we've got so many big egos within the sport. And not just in football, but cricket, everywhere. Cricket.
Or in rugby, you can say in rugby.
Yeah, for sure. And I just really, I think because the money has changed the game. There's so much money in the game now. There's just in every code, in every sport, and I find that it's unfortunately if it's not controlled and it's not really sort of managed correctly. And we've got social media, which is an absolute killer. It just destroys the innocence of growing up without having a phone and Google, and we can't go anywhere these days without having data on his phone. And I decided a long while ago just to stop posting things because I just think it takes the innocence out of like growing up for a lot of young players, a lot of young kids. You know, first thing they do when they go home, bang, they're straight on the phone. They're on the phone going to school. They're on the phone at school. They're on the phone coming home from school on the bus. Social media for me is a huge turn off.
Do you think that it also have an impact on the players? Because
massively.
They're going to the training, they're seeing the Facebook, who is posting what. And another thing is that do you think that at times, I feel, I want to know about it, at times the players have a very wrong conceptions about their own ability. Seeing in the social media that I'm having so much likes, I'm being followed by so many followers, then they tend to grow up much bigger than their boots. I mean, do you agree?
Oh no, I absolutely agree, and I think it has the flip side also, because if say for example, say a cricketer gets he gets a big score, say he gets a ton, you know what I mean, or in one game, and then he's out for a duck, you know what I mean, the next game straight away, first thing, bang, straight on social media, you know, that negative impact, you know what I mean, before you know it, you know, you start listening, subconsciously you start listening to what who have got no bearing on the game, who have got no real sort, you know, and it's really, really interesting when you're actually listening to sports people, how they allow social media to have an impact on their mental well-being, and more importantly, because it's all about confidence. So I strongly believe how we monitor and how we control social media. I ban telephones at in the dressing room. I don't allow telephones in team meetings, eating times. I ban it all, because I believe if you cannot go for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes for lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if you can't do that and have a civilized conversation without picking your phone up, I think that's saying that I just had to turn mine off. So yeah, I've got really, really strong beliefs about. I think social media. Any parent who's bringing up the kids now, he's got to find a way of getting your kid off that telephone, because it is dangerous. And I've got really strong beliefs about that. I say to my kids, you know, the old Android phones were the best phones, where you just had a message, beep beep, you get a message, you know what I mean?
And that's all.
You know, and then it's bang, you reply, and then it's off, and then I just don't get all this, like, you know, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, Twitter. You know, I'm not saying I don't have those platforms, because I have it for other reasons, keeping in contact with people. But I just think it's, and a lot of people might turn around and say I'm old-fashioned, and if I'm old-fashioned, so be it. But I strongly believe, I've got really strong beliefs about it. I just think it not only destroys people's confidence, but it also
makes that wrong confidence at times.
Well, I just really feel some people just can't live without the telephone wrapped around their ear, you know what I mean, or in out of their hand, and sadly, you know, some of the nonsense which gets posted on social media. I know these journalists, require it, but I just think it has a detrimental effect, especially to a lot of sports people who actually thrive on it or die by it.
Now coming to the social media and all those things, you came to Bangladesh as the head coach of the academy when you were first initially appointed. How was your stint with the academy? And I got another question about it. You have seen Bangladesh football quite well. So where do you think this academy stands, and how do you think that this academy should work on? I mean the academy.
Um,
And did you have any? Have you seen when you were in the academy? Have you seen the social media impacts there too?
well, I basically stopped all the players using their phones. Their phones had come in and they get taken off them. I came initially because I was supposed to take up another national team position in Africa, and it never materialised, mainly because there was social unrest. I ended up taking the job as head of elite academy to oversee the project with a view to doing something different. Kazi Salahuddin, we had a good conversation, we had a chat. He decided to bring me in. It was probably a stepping stone to something bigger and more substantial. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I thought, when I realised that all these players were probably over age rather than the right age, which was a big worry, you know. So when you've got players like under 17s and who were basically were 18, 19, we had to sort of restructure it. But I enjoyed it. I guided I did quite a lot of mentoring with regards to the coaches with Abu and Mahedi and Mintu and Tutul, and we placed a lot of emphasis on actually getting players to actually, you know, think outside the box, be a little bit more imaginative and a bit more creative, which I really have a really strong belief in terms of actually expressing yourselves in the right areas of the pitch, understanding your responsibility in possession, out of possession. There are a lot of factors which actually come into play, but I were amazed how behind they were, how far behind the young players are in terms of other, you know, Europe, etc. And I don't expect the academies to be like what they are in Europe and England and Spain, etc. But
let's be real. I mean, let's accept reality. We cannot be like England.
No, absolutely not. And I think you've got to try and find a balance.
But do you think that this one thing that you just mentioned, I also point out this thing that age is a big thing here in the academy, because sometimes we tend to play more aged players just to win some trophies or things like that. That should be monitored very well in the academies.
Well, unfortunately, they always say, the first thing somebody said to me when I first came to Bangladesh is, we have two ages. We have a football age.
And a passport age.
And a passport age.
Everybody.
But it's true. It's true. And I do you know what? I really found it, having worked in African football for a long time, 7 years. I had a lady who came to me one day and she turned around and said to me, I'll never forget it, it was a huge tournament. It's called the county meet in Monrovia in Liberia. It's huge. 40,000 people there. And
exactly.
Her son was playing in this tournament, and I was at a game watching again because I watch a lot of football. And I was doing some talent identification program. It was a recruitment drive. And she came and said, I hear that you're interested in my son. And I said, yeah. I said, who is your son? She said, the guy with the white dyed hair. And I went, yeah, of course, yeah. Good player. I said, how old is he? She said to me, she looked at me, all innocent, and said, how old would you like him to be? So I looked at her. Well, I just looked at her and I just turned around and said, well, I'd like to know his real age. She said he can be whatever age you want him to be on Monday morning. So then that made me realise. So it sort of set me up. But Bangladesh, age is a factor. People turn.
Let's take it this way. Even in other things, that when you are giving some players in the academies, I mean, it's my own observation. I'm not sure what you think. the primary goal is to develop the players rather than getting results? Or do you think that result-oriented academic training is very important, or it is development-oriented academic training very? Because if you are playing matches and you are doing winning matches, but your players are getting developed, and they're being developed for the national side, is it better than to have an under-17 winning an under-17 trophy, not developing, but some?
Do you know what? It's a really good question, because a lot of people never really ask me that question because they're frightened to ask it, man. You've got development coaches and you've got result-oriented coaches, and then you've got coaches who coach for their own ego. Now, and I don't have a problem talking about this because I've been through it all. I understand that we've got certain coaches who don't care about age, who will just pick any, by hook or by crook, will get that player in the team. Now, what you've got to remember is, after 17, 18, if you play, you're competing in the big wide world. You're competing into senior football. But unless you're playing in sort of age-restricted tournaments, so good example, recent under 17s and under 20s, whether they were, I have to be careful what I say, and whether they weren't the right age is not my gig. It's not the way I would have done things. The most important thing for me is to help and enhance and develop players for Bangladesh for the BPL. Now, there's one thing I would turn around and say is that the BCL to me is a great grounding, great like sounding board, grounding for the young players. And I think the team, we had an under 20s which was playing in the BCL. Now, I think the BCL, these players playing in the BCL are actually better than players playing in the BPL. And I was really sort of, and lads and guys who were 34, 35, 36 playing. Now, should there be age restrictions? Yeah, there should be. But
Because I've seen in my own eyes that I've seen players who are in the academy for the last 3 years. What if as one single player is being in the academy for the last 3-4 years is what he have done?
Well, from my perspective, it's all about if I see a player who's 16, 17 and I think he's good enough to play a senior team, I will select him for the senior team. Now, the biggest problem in Bangladesh national team, senior team, is that I don't see enough young players coming through. Now, that to me is a concern. That's not being disrespectful to anybody or anything, but what we need to do is we need to have a conveyor belt of talent. So you've got players coming in the natural progression, but
in the pipeline.
In the pipeline, creating a pathway, so it's a development pathway, and then consequently but if a kid is 17 and he's good enough to play a senior team, he should jump over the 20s. Now, a lot of people don't believe that. Look at Wayne Rooney, great example, 16. How many young players, Jude Bellingham, 16, 17, playing first team football, Birmingham City, etc. Age to us in the UK is not an obstacle. Age is just a number. So it doesn't really matter whether you're 32, 33, or you're 20, or you're 15, 16. If you're good enough, you get an opportunity to play. Now, when it comes to developing players, now, from my perspective, I think developing players is an art.
Let me get the question more clear. How, if I'm not wrong, when you're getting a player at the age of 15, 16, and you are getting him for 21, till 21, for 5 years, say, I'm just saying, hypothetically.
Hypothetically,
yeah. We are giving you a player for 5 years. After 5 years, do you think that technically he can be developed? Or within 5 years, because his bones will get stronger now in those 5 years, and all these muscles will be much better placed. So after 21, he needs to be more embracing new things in his life rather than technical. I just want to know why.
Well, let me tell you this. If at 16, if you're not technically sound, you've got no chance.
Okay.
at 16, you really should be learning and understanding game management.
Then we are in the wrong path. Then we are in the wrong path because we tend to give 16 players. We are just giving him time that he's developing in one more year technical. But I don't think that's right then.
Well, if you look at, say, for example, a lot of academies, you go 15, 16, 17, 18. Now, can you improve your first touch? Can you improve? It's hard to give somebody speed, in terms of like quickness of thought, decision making, etc., etc. But when it comes down to technical, I think you can work at your the technical aspect of your game, but really, in many respects, at 16, 17, if you're not really like getting games on the board at your respective academy level, or under 20 or under 21s, or under 8, depends on which age group you're playing at. If you're not getting games on a regular basis, you're going to get left behind. Now, and that's why we get so many young kids now in England coming through at 16, 17, 18. Now, if at 18 and 19, if you're not knocking on the door of the first team, you've got no chance. Now, that's how competitive it is. And what I do is I create a competitive environment, as I've done recently with the girls, which is very controversial.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Actually.
Well, you can talk about it. I don't mind talking about it. It was just very but going back to the boys, what we do is we create a competitive environment. Now, my belief is up until the age of 12, this mental kids want to win football. They want to win. They want to play to win. They want to, people. This mentality of we shouldn't be keeping results at a young age. We should just let them play. But kids pick up that competitive streak from their parents. Doesn't really matter whether you're coming in at number 5 or you're opening batsman. You want to get runs on the board.
Exactly.
If you're bowling, you don't just bowl and say, "Oh, I'm going to bowl a nice, beautiful line and length," or you know what I mean, or I'm going to, leg break, or you know what I mean, or an offie or whatever. You want to take wickets. You want to score runs. You want to win games.
You want to score goals.
And that's why you look around the world and we have such competitive environment. The South Americans are super, super competitive. And I've coached quite a lot of lads from Brazil and Argentina when I was working in Southeast Asia. So I think when it comes down to creating a competitive environment, the quickest and easiest way, and there's a chapter in Jose Mourinho's first book where he wrote about how did he create a competitive environment. And I'm no different. The first thing I do when I go into a job, I look at the young players coming through. I've already done a bit of an analysis on the senior players, but I look at the young players. Who's competitive? Which ones are winners? Which ones really want to get stuck in and fight for a place? Or do we have a group of youngsters who are frightened of the seniors? Now, for me, it's all about creating. If you want to progress, if you want to drive momentum and get players pushing and for in a competitive environment, you need the young players coming in and challenging the senior players, and that happens all over the world.
Exactly. When I was having this chat or having the podcast with you, I was doing a lot of research about you and all those things. You joined the Bangladesh women's team, and that was purely accidental.
Accidental, yeah. Yeah, it was. yeah. By fate or by. Do you know what? I really.
Do you think that
Kazi Salahuddin and Miss Kiran came to say, they said, "Listen, would you be interested in helping?" T2 had been taken in previously. They'd been getting smashed. They'd been getting beat 6-0, 7-0, whatever it was, and I watched quite a lot of the games. I don't just jump in with both feet and say, "Yeah, I'll do it." I had a good look at it, and the football they were playing was very Route 1 direct. Even going back to 2022, I looked at they played a very direct style of football, which is not my type of football. I like to get it down and play. And I like to educate players, teach players, encourage players to be creative and innovative and improvise and play balls around corners. It's something I could talk about all day. But I did my research. And they asked me, and I said, okay, I'll do it on a short-term period. We had Chinese Taipei coming up. I left a few prominent people out of the team because I felt that we were better suited in terms of actual to create a competitive environment was to actually the way I wanted to play. You need legs, and if you don't have legs, if your pace starts to go, or you don't really have that hunger and that desire. So I wanted hungry players.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm coming in. When you came in, when you got the team, there were players, there were senior players, there were some senior players, and a lot of people told me that your biggest problem with this team was that there's a group of senior players who doesn't want the young players. Do you agree with that?
That's normal. That's not just in Bangladesh. That's quite normal right around the world because people don't like change. People oppose change, and unfortunately, whether we like it or we don't, and bearing in mind, as I alluded to earlier on about age, doesn't really matter whether you're 16 or you're 32, 33. 30.
As far as the leg is good.
As long as you've got the hunger and the desire
and the leg
and the right attitude to help and bring on those young players, I'm quite happy to work with anybody.
But when someone has won a championship, the girls, I'm talking about the girls.
Yeah.
Then the whole team, they used to think that what we had done is the ultimate because we have got the championship.
Are you referring to 2022?
Yeah.
That had no bearing on me whatsoever.
No. I'm just saying the mentality. After what I'm saying is that after winning the championship, these girls, the players with whom you work, they were not ready to accept the changes that you were you were trying to end because they were thinking that we have won the championship, so we know football. Do you agree with that?
I think when you go back to 2022, when they won the won the SAFF, and I've always said this, and I said this 3 weeks ago when we were in Nepal. The moment that final whistle goes, and the whistle goes, and you've won the game, you're on a downward trajectory. You start straight away, because all of a sudden what happens is money comes into play, greed comes into play. People now are looking and all of it, and it's been proven because the results post 2022 were very, very poor. And performance,
apart from this.
Yeah, and now it took me 7 months, 8 months to pick those up. Now, irrespective of what people turn around and say that they contributed towards this, and I have certain people, ex-coaches, etc., running around saying, I did this and I did that. I was the one up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to Bashundhara. I was the one who was putting the cones out and doing the themes and the topics and putting the sessions together, with Litu, putting the cones out when it's dark in the pouring rain. Not some other coach who's trying to jump on the back and ride my success, our success, and trying to hijack the work that we did. And it's something I really believe strongly in. It's a collective effort when you achieve something. You don't just do it on your own. But I worked extremely hard over 7 months, video analysis, themes, topics, phases of play, putting groups together, and a lot of senior players did not like that.
Because they were afraid to embrace the change.
Well, they felt they felt threatened. Now, I went out of my way to make them feel inclusive of the group, because like I said, doesn't matter to me as long as you're contributing.
You're in my team.
You'll be available for selection. So, and any coach, cricket coach, will tell you in Bangladesh or Any cricket coach or football coach around the world or rugby coach will tell you, competition breeds fear. The fear of failure, the fear of not being accepted or selected. And a lot of people, there's a great book, and I recommend it to anybody. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? It's about change. It's about the guy who sits in the corner in the office 30 years and one day comes in and somebody's moved his table and chairs. New manager comes in, doesn't like it. Now, for me, I think it's important to embrace change, because change can be good and change can be sort of, it can affect you, well, it can affect your life, but I created an environment which was super competitive, and I'm really proud of what I did, because the young girls were fantastic.
Now coming to the next question. In the press conference in Nepal,
Yeah.
you said that one of the coaches is making this changing room, creating disharmony in the changing room. I mean, he
One or two or three or four or...
let me get it straight. So, how pissed off were you when you were seeing that some other coaches were trying to hijack what you try to do, or trying to inject something that is not?
They're still trying to hijack now. It didn't bother me. I'm bigger than that. You know, there's an old saying, it's called "Don't sweat the small stuff." You know what I mean? What you can't change, you're never going to. You know, what you can't change, don't try and change. Don't waste mental energy on it. I knew it, and I knew they were provoking players, and I even had people within my own team. I had to galvanise a fractured group. And I had to do it on my own because some of the other coaches were fearful and frightened. I understand why they were. But there's been a lot of untruths told and a lot of lies spoken about what actually happened. And I know what happened. And I'm not one to wash my dirty linen in public, because I'd rather look at the positives and dwell on the positives and move forwards in a positive manner. But I know the ones, and they know the ones who try to provoke, and they actually achieve that, upsetting and provoking the girls, because girls can be extremely naive, can be extremely vulnerable, and I found it quite sad that we were competing in a major competition, and I had coaches ringing up girls, you know, holding meetings with girls and certain people within the group. And there's me, this stupid man from West Yorkshire, near Leeds, you know, in Nepal, trying to galvanise a group of girls. But do you know what? I succeeded.
And despite all the obstacles.
Well, I succeeded because I didn't succumb to the pathetic nature of actually what was going on, and I had quite a lot of people supporting me. I had young girls coming to see me saying, "Coach, stay strong. We really need you." If we what's it? I had even some of the parents come to see me when I came back. You know, and that was quite moving. You know, that was really sort of quite as a coach. Quite an emotional moment, knowing the parents who had nothing, who'd come to see me and said, "Whatever you do, please do this for not just my child, but the next generation of young players coming through in Bangladesh, because we really need you." And that meant a lot to me. That really meant a lot to me, because I knew that there's 6 or 7 who were a real, how can I put it?
Threat?
A threat. Well, they were a threat. And
you just mentioned the competition brings threat.
Yeah, and they were a threat to the future and the future development and pathway for those young players. And I feel really strongly about this, and I'm not speaking out of turn. I care about Bangladeshi ladies football. I care about Bangladesh football, full stop. I've had a year here. The people have been extremely receptive and respectful towards me, and I'm thankful for that. Why should I allow 6 or 7 who don't really care about me, who don't care about the future of the game, but only care about the dollar, the money, and them going forwards? They don't care about anybody else other than themselves. Now that to me is fundamentally wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Now comes the next question: is that you, when you came down to the state, to the airport, in Dhaka airport, with the trophy,
Yeah.
you said that I don't want to get in the picture. You remember? You take pictures about them. It's their success. I just want to mention that you won the trophy, you won everything, you won the championship, but somehow deep inside you were not happy with it. I'm not saying that I'm happy with all the atmosphere that you had to go through. Do you think that's why you wanted that let them have that?
Listen,
share of the cake?
it was their moment. I'm not really one to sort of like, bask in what's
Glory.
in glory. I'm from a humble environment, and I'm being brought up to actually. Sometimes in life, good things don't need advertising because everybody knows who did the work. Everybody knows who put the programs together, who put that 7-8 month program. Who knows they know who galvanized that group and who had to take the nonsense and had sleepless nights. People know about that. I don't need to be in the picture holding a trophy up. That to me, what gives me a kick, what gives me great pleasure, is seeing players such as Shagarita, Shatner, Afeda, Tora, Modu, all those young girls. And see them progress and move forwards in their respective careers because they're from difficult environments. I understand that. We all are in some way, shape or form. But if I can help them, and I'm a massive believer in marginal gains, which means you're not going to improve somebody overnight 20%. I'm a believer in small increments, 0.5%, 1%, 0.5%, 1%. Because if you keep on building that upward trajectory, you've got something moving, you've got something going.
Yeah. Now the question is that when you were when you were coaching after you came back, it was reported that the girls had complained against you.
I'm sure they have.
They have reasons too.
I'm sure they complained about me during for being professional and organised and disciplined. I'm sure they complained about me afterwards because I'm a threat to their life. Is not about little cottage in the country, white picket fences, daffodils blowing in the garden, and little country lanes. Life is harsh. Life's tough. Life's not easy. There's a lot of people out there who can't put food on the table for their kids. I've experienced what it's like to be broke. At one stage in my life. But I had a lot of support. We had a lot of love, and we had a great desire and passion to actually, move on and move forwards. Now I get that. Am I a threat to them? Yeah, I am, because I want to improve things. And if they don't want to if they want to take the easy route, that's no good to Bangladesh. Bangladesh does not need Bangladesh sport, cricket or football or whatever called rugby, whatever you play. I'm sure they play rugby. Doesn't need people in wrapped in cotton wool, comfort zones. Doesn't need that. Needs a competitive environment. It needs young players scrapping and fighting for their lives and wanting to get in that team by hook or by crook. I want that. I'm sure the Bangladesh public want that. Because if we all strive for that, we're going to produce better players, more hungrier players, a more competitive environment, competitive leagues, and better national teams.
Do you feel that what you said just right now, is it possible with the lineup, with the guys, with the girls that you have in the setup?
Anything's possible.
No, I mean the way they're doing at this moment, the way they are moving forward. Do you think that they will allow youngsters, the senior women cricketers who are hailed as the queen of Bangladesh football, will give space to the young players to come up, or
They've got no choice. The best young players always come to the fore. As we always say back home, we always say the cream always comes to the top, and the best players, the most competitive players, will always come through. Might take sometimes you have to go the long way around. Maybe you have to go around the houses a little bit, but no, they always come to the fore. Now, whether they come to the fore under my directorship or through somebody else's, young players will always, the Shopners, the Monkeys, they'll always like rise to the top. But every coach has his favourites.
Yeah, that's quite normal.
That's normal.
That's normal.
We agree on that. They've all got the favourites, but I don't take sides. I'm not.
But they are complaining that you take sides.
Well, they can complain as much as they want. I pick players on merit, and if I played mind games, I apologise, because mind games is part of the game. Sometimes to get the best out of people, you've got to play mind games. Sometimes.
Yeah, and now I'm coming to the mind games. After the loss against Pakistan, you remember?
We never lost. We drew.
After the draw against Pakistan, you had a very good. You spoke a lot to the girls, and that really ignited them.
Well,
what did you actually say to them?
Well, I thought our best performance, crazy as it sounds, was against Pakistan. We played against a team which had 10 expatriate players in that group. Players playing in America, Saudi Arabia, UK, Canada. They were a decent side. They were well organised and well drilled. Sat deep, knew it was going to be really, really difficult. And I played a girl at the back called Kwati, and she was superb. But I knew during that game, Kwati wasn't going to play against India. I was going to play another girl with more experience. And because you pick and choose, sometimes you pick players based on flair and ability and skill, and sometimes you need a little bit of experience.
Exactly.
And so I didn't climb down. I had certain people within the group sort of running around, the coach is going to pick this team, the coach is going to pick that team. But I fed people information which was completely false, because I knew it was going to get back. So they were that crazy and stupid enough to actually run around telling stories which were false. But these are all information which I'd fed this guy, but I knew he was going to run around and go back and tell all the girls that, oh, by the way, you're playing. He's just told me that. Really, she wasn't playing. But it kept everybody on the toes. And I stopped naming the team, and I wouldn't name the team until 3 hours before kickoff.
That is one area that is one issue that these girls have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I did it on purpose.
Yeah, but that, according to them, doesn't suit them. But
it didn't suit them, but we won the cup. We played great football. We won the cup.
No, because some of them wanted to know that who are playing with us in the 11.
Yeah, so they could get on TikTok.
Yeah.
They could get on TikTok, and you know what I mean, and send the little pictures saying, I'm playing, But I live in the real world. Like I said, it's all about shaking people out of the comfort zone and getting people into an environment which is competitive. And the quicker Bangladesh football, sport in general, does that, the better everybody will be for it. Players, coaches, administrators, everybody.
It's a great achievement for Sabina to won 2 championships. SAFF championship. Where do you see her future in the next?
Future in my eyes, I'm very respectful, and I'm very I applaud what she's actually done for Bangladesh, and she's become an iconic figure.
Exactly.
And I'm very respectful. She falls into that category of coming to the end of her career, which all players do. I did, and I found it hard to deal with at times. but mine was curtailed through injury at 31, 32. I'm extremely respectful, but all journeys, great journeys, good journeys, bad journeys, all come to an end. Now, whether she's part of the project moving forwards could be my decision, could be somebody else's decision, because nothing's been decided with regards me or anybody else. So for me to sit here and discuss Sabina's future would be quite premature.
No, but I want to know that the way you approach football, I mean, Sabina and the people and the girls of her bracket, do you see them going forward massively in Bangladesh? Because there are quite a few who are at her age bracket.
That's quite a leading question.
Yeah, is it?
Listen, I allude. I go back to the statement I said previously. Doesn't matter whether you're 16 or does it matter whether you're 32. If you've got the right attitude, and it all comes down to attitude and discipline, living your life right, being disciplined in your approach on and off the pitch. Everyone has an opportunity and has a future. Doesn't mean to say Sabina can't scrap it out with the monkeys and the shagaritas and the Shatners. Why not? Why not?
She can, but
the opportunity. For me, Sabina is now getting to that stage in her career as more of an impact player.
Yeah,
because she can't sustain
90 minutes
at the level that she possibly could have done many years ago. Now, that's not being disrespectful, that's just being honest. Now, if she's smart, which I'm sure she is, and if I'm smart, or if the next coach is smart, will they use her
impact player
as an impact player, which can have a big impact,
for 20 minutes.
Well,
20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Well, it could be 60 minutes, it could be 40, 45, it could be whatever it is. But the point I'm making is that does she still have something to offer? Now, that remains to be seen. How she actually embraces the future. And that's the same, not just for Sabina, that's the same for
all the
could be Masura, Shandida, Neela, Krishna, all those girls who have come through past 2022. Now we're into 2024. I think this next under 20 project, which I think is really important, the 17s and 20s in January, February, and February, March. The 20s come first. And it's going to be held here in Bangladesh, which is great. I honestly believe that they can be the catalyst for success in 2026.
Now, going back to one of the answers that you've given, these players at the back, senior players, you just mentioned that Sabina could be a very good impact players. But do you think that they have got the right mindset to accept it? I mean, the ego comes here. Because when you're saying that you are not in the best level, do you think that they can easily take that? Or it takes into their ego?
I think it all comes down to the individual. I think it's how you embrace it. How you embrace, again, we go back to change, competition, how you accept.
But from what I understand, that they take it as a matter of ego that, no, why I'm not playing?
Listen, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whichever platform you use, I don't believe in washing dirty linen in public. I believe in being positive. Am I positive about Bangladesh sport, football? I think it's like gold dust here. And on a Friday today, I could drive down any street, back street, main street, and people are going to there'll be wickets everywhere. And there'll be balls getting smashed left, right, and centre, up and down. Thank God they're not Duke balls or whatever. But that's gold dust. That's like, if you could bottle that and take that around the world, you got the potential to actually develop something. Now what we've got to do is, sadly, you don't see kids on dirt pitches playing football anymore. Now, maybe that's a sign of the times. Maybe that we're going back to social media. I honestly believe that positivity is the way forwards, because the potential is here. It's a numbers game, is football. Whether it's the size of pitches, the numbers of players, it's a numbers game. Now, if you can get the structure and the organisation organised, if you can get academies and get the right programmes being executed, in terms on facilities which are safe environments, you've got something. You could really, really dominate South Asian football. No reason why you couldn't. Now, it comes back to, we've proved ourselves at SAFF.
And what's next for you?
It's got to be AFC. It's got to be. Now, I'm not saying you're going to win AFC, because I don't think you are, because I don't think you're ready for it. But
we must aim.
But you've got to aim, and you've got to set your stall out accordingly and say, right, okay, if you reach for the stars, we might not reach the stars, but
you're the moon.
Yeah, we might get the moon.
Yeah. That's a famous saying.
So the point I would make is, and I think which is really, really valid, is that AFC, we've got to really put a program together now, and I'm in the process of actually putting a program together. Whether I'm here to execute that program remains to be seen, but again, it comes down to creating a competitive environment, getting kids back playing football on the streets, on pitches, in structured environments, getting a grip of the coach education program, getting more coaches through who don't just get. What you got to remember is, when you get a coaching certificate, and this is no different in cricket, because I've brought up in a cricket environment and football and rugby. Just getting a ticket isn't the answer to success. It's what you do with that ticket, that certificate. It's about putting that into practice. Now, majority of coaches here probably wouldn't pass the CPD accreditation, because they've been dormant for such a length of time. CPD is continual personal development. So you need to get hours in. Now, we need to create more workshops, because coaches do not want to be sat in seminar rooms watching DVDs, listening to a coach who's been telling his life story. They don't want that. They want practical sessions. They want to see ideas. They want to, whether they're playing 3v2, 4v4, 6v3s, small-sided games, phase of defensive play, they want to be educated on the training ground. And I think what we've got to be careful is of falling into this this trap of academia. Being an academic's great. I'm not an academic. I'm from the qualification I got was how to get down the street from this street to next street without getting beaten up in England, or it's a story of life, how we go about as lives, and how we impart knowledge, and how we relate to the younger generation that's coming through, which is actually just sort of so messed up with social media platforms, and we've got to create an environment which is a learning environment, partly academic, but moreover more pragmatic in terms of our approach to actually educating, imparting knowledge, executing programs, getting kids playing in environments, in structured leagues. I could talk about it all day.
No, I understand.
But it's very, very sort of close to my heart of actually what I believe in. And that's no different. And I always relate to cricket, and because my mates all went down the cricket road, and some went down the rugby road. I went down the football road. Maybe that was the right road, maybe it was the wrong road.
Now I got two last questions. One is that after winning the trophy, you said that you are not interested to continue as a women's head coach. You still stick to that?
No, if it's restructured, if I've always said this, I think the president is a very, very go-ahead, ambitious guy.
That is,
Yeah, I think he's a good guy. I think he's really, really, and I never had a problem with Kazi Salahuddin either. He was fine. He was cool with me.
now you had a meeting with the president.
I've met him. Yeah, I've had a chat with him. Had a couple of chats with him, just informal, just as a get together. He's a nice chap, but he's also got a ruthless side to him. I can see it, and which is good.
So if it is restructured, then you are staying. If the offer is good.
There has to be fundamental change, and maybe I'm the one who actually brings fundamental change in conjunction with the new president and his new committee. Maybe I could be part of that jigsaw puzzle, and if I am part of the jigsaw puzzle, I would make decisions which would be unpopular, but would be popular for the long-term future of the game here, because it's not all about individuals and certain people, keeping people happy. It's about developing the game in a manner where we can all move forwards together, individually, collectively, but moreover, develop the game. That to me is is fundamental in terms of for me stopping here, and there's been no decision made. I really do believe the girls, the ladies.
You have girls and ladies, yeah, of course.
Yeah, girls and ladies, girls and ladies, women's. Yeah, I like to think that they are ladies. I've got a lot of hope and belief in the long-term future for those young girls. Nothing would be better than going out to places like Chittagong and Cox's Bazar and Mymensingh and all these different outlying districts and areas. And if I missed anywhere, I'm sorry, because I'm not really sort of in tune with. But I would love to be able to implement programs to actually put TIPs, talent identification programs, together to help develop and recruit the next generation and then the generation after that to come through and whether that be girls or boys. Remember I've spent 8 years working at national team level in Africa, which was difficult, really, really challenging. I came off the back of 20 years of civil wars in Monrovia. But we found really, really good young players, hungry players who really want, and some of them now are playing in Europe, in Czechoslovakia, and playing Champions League football, which is fantastic. So I think I've got a lot of hope, and I've got a lot of desire to see the game here move forwards and flourish.
And the last question: how will you manage Kiran?
Kiran.
She plays a big part in women's football.
I get on. Do you know what? I get on fine. I don't have a problem with her. I don't. She didn't. Maybe I don't know if she's got a problem with me, but I don't think she has.
Yes.
Miss Kiran has delivered a lot. She's sacrificed. I've got no doubt about this for in her tenure. Now she's not obviously
in the same frame.
Same sort of position, but she's always respectful to me. She always offers me a cup of tea, like you've done at this podcast, and
Can she embrace the changes that you want to make?
She has to. And
she's not someone who is known to be embracing changes, at least in the Salahuddin era. But the changes that you are trying to make, that might not go her way. But
the only changes I would make are changes for good, not changes. Not
to be popular.
I'm not there to be popular. I'm not there.
But you don't know. Someone need to be popular.
I always turn around and say 5 really, really important things, which is as a kid coming through the system, is respect, integrity, and humility. Now, we need more humility. We need to be more humble. These girls need to be more humble, especially when people are throwing money around. And I don't think that's the way to do it. I think the reward system is a little bit, maybe not the way I would do it, but it's not my gig.
And not only money, they have to create roads for their houses and all those things.
Well, if they do that, that's very, very noble of them. But the two byproducts of the first three, so from respect, integrity and humility, the byproducts, in my opinion, which come with are discipline and professionalism. Now, we're a long, long way away from being professional. Nobody can turn around and say that they are professional footballers from what I see, because professionalism is about living your life right, on the pitch, off the pitch, making sure you live right, your diets are right, your recovery's right. Professionalism is like a very, very wide, sort of varied sort of subject. And there's a lot of things which come into play. I came from an environment where the first 5 things I learned as a kid walking into Huddersfield town as a youngster was respect. And if you can't respect yourself, how can you expect respect other people? Vice versa. Having integrity, doing things with honesty, humility, being humble, being kind to people, being respectful to people, and then comes obviously disciplined approach and professionalism. So there's a lot of factors which actually get sort of things which get blown out of proportion, but the simple things. It's like saying, and I said this on a site the other day. A guy asked, somebody asked me, and I refused to comment. But I said, you can't go into a shop, Stop and Shop, and buy a box of integrity, a jar of respect, or a packet of humility. Because the shop owner is going to turn around and say to you, I'm sorry, but they're the fundamental things in life. You can't buy those. You have to earn them. And if you're not willing to earn them, you've got no chance in life. Now, that's the biggest things I would actually impress upon those girls, young and old, is be more humble.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This was an extreme pleasure to have a chat with Butler, who have tried to explain the whole scenario of Bangladesh women's football and the academics and how he wants to approach this progression, and more importantly, what he will be looking forward if he stays with Bangladesh football in the coming days. Thank you, Butler, for coming to the Daily Sun Show.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me.